Hi, today I'm going to talk about some of the things to take into consideration when doing business in Africa. The first thing to realize is that Africa is actually 54 different countries. This means 54 jurisdictions with different norms, languages, visas, and currencies. And yet there are over 1 billion people who probably need the products and services that you as an individual or a company actually have to provide. Additionally, it has the youngest population in the world, which is expected to grow quite exponentially in the next few years. The time it takes to register a company is something that many people or individuals or companies don't take into consideration when they're actually moving into the African space. But this can actually range from a few days in Rwanda to many, many months in other countries that I will not specify. But it is quite key to ensure that you know how long it will actually take you to register a company or actually just be able to start business in a particular country. Taxes is a topic that many individuals or companies might not take into consideration in enough depth before they venture into a country. And as there are different tax authorities with different requirements in all 54 jurisdictions, this may actually become quite difficult for some companies to comprehend. And depending on the country, there are varying levels of complexities of taxes that companies have to contend with. And as any country, it is easier to collect taxes from companies than individuals. So there's quite a big focus by most tax authorities to ensure that companies and individuals pay their fair share in those individual countries. And these taxes may vary from just simple company taxes to customs and stamp duties, royalties, and VAT in most of the countries. Besides taxes, there are other laws and regulations that apply to each of these countries. And these vary from labor laws, for example, Black economic empowerment in South Africa, to foreign exchange controls, I think, which is quite a significant one that most of the countries have. So when considering moving into a country, you also have to consider how you're actually going to get the money out or the profits out that you make. How are you going to remit the profits that you make? You also need to look at these regulations to ensure that you're actually able to remit your profits in the timelines that you envisage. There have been quite a few countries who found themselves invested for a lot longer periods purely because the laws did not allow them to remit the profits they made in the timelines that they had envisaged. So it is also quite important to find out how easy it is to move money between jurisdictions from the jurisdiction that you're working particularly in and your home jurisdiction. So who your banker is or who your bank is and how they're able to move money between the different countries is very important, because it actually ends up increasing your costs that you might not necessarily think about on the onset. Doing your due diligence is very important before you actually embark onto moving into a particular country. And actually visiting the sites, visiting the country is very important, whether you are embarking on a greenfields project or you're buying an existing company. And performing your own diligence, where you assess your own risk and opportunities and not just relying on due diligence done by an external party, is very important, because we've had a few companies who a few years down the line realized that they'd actually overpaid for the companies that they bought. A few years down the line, they were now actually writing off quite big impairments that they had not foreseen. So it's very important that you actually visit the countries, you actually make your own assessments of the risks that are there in a particular country and the opportunities that are there to be made, that are actually there. Human capital. In Africa, for certain industries, you might not necessarily have the level of skill that you find in other jurisdictions outside of Africa. So there must be a fine balance between bringing in certain skills and also upskilling the human capital from the individual African countries, because the African people on the ground in the different countries actually have the local know-how of the local norms and the politics that sometimes prevails in these countries. So it's actually quite important that there's a fine balance between having the local on-the-ground knowledge and bringing in the skills that you require, and also taking into consideration how you train the people that you find on the ground to bring them up to the standard that you require as a company to work to. With that, that's all from me. Hope these are just a few things just to take into consideration when you do decide to embark on your journey on doing business in Africa. Thank you.